Hey, book besties. Welcome to More Than a Book Club podcast. I'm your host, Lena.
And I'm your other host, LJ. And today, Lena, who do we have?
We have Miss Rebecca Wolf with us, author of Alive and Beating.
Yes.
Welcome, Rebecca.
We're so excited.
Thank you. So excited to be here. My very first book podcast.
Woohoo! Very exciting.
You've been, I guess, not just writing, but your backstory a little bit is that you were a journalist before you became an author. Is that
Yes.
true? Is that accurate?
That is true. I'm the daughter of a librarian, and my dad was the editor-in-chief of his college newspaper. So I kind of grew up always reading and writing, and I was keeping a diary before we called it journaling. I I think I had these like grand illusions of myself because I used to actually edit when I was done because I thought, well, someday I'm going to be so famous, someone's going to want to read these. Anyway, but I did
I
not
love
become
that.
a diarist. I did go into journalism. I also worked on my college paper, and then I worked at Dow Jones Newswires. I was actually a financial reporter on Wall Street,
Oh, wow.
which was a great job, but not so much my interest. But then when my kids were born, I basically was home with them. And I just wrote more personal essays and, more lighthearted parenting pieces, things like that, freelance. But I think my journalism background really came into play with this book because I grabbed a lot of stuff from the headlines, as opposed to just using my imagination. And B, I think that the journalist in me liked, I don't know if teaching is the right word, but I kind of liked being able to describe a lot of different things in the book, in addition to trying to just tell a nice story.
No, and I think that you definitely did that.
Yes, you 100% did that. That's my favorite type of fiction book, is a book where you not only are just pulled into the story, but you're learning about different people, different cultures as you're going through this. And I want to say this might be one of my first books that dealt with Israel other than, Holocaust and I mean,
Right.
the Jewish people. It's like,
Yeah.
it was different for me, and it was very eye-opening because one subsection of history for Judaism has been reported on.
Right. Tonight is actually the start of Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I think my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. I think a lot of people process things by writing, and they also wanted to tell stories. So I do think that a ton of stuff about Jews is about the Holocaust. But I also wanted to write a book that wasn't only about Jewish people. And
Yes.
one of my close friends who is Catholic, she said, I never even knew there were Catholics in Jerusalem. And I said, yeah, they're
Same.
a minority there, but they exist.
Yeah. No, I love that, seeing all the mix of the cultures and making, I think it was a good point to bring out, like you said, to educate people that don't have this idea. You hear Israel, and a lot of people, especially in the US, I think they think, oh, Bible or Jewish people, like, that's where it goes. And then it's like, well, but this is also land that has been fought over, which should be a hint that it would be more diverse.
Right.
And I thought it was so interesting, just things that I wouldn't worry about, like just thinking about some of the things, like, do I want this person's organs in my body were from different places? And I just had not even considered that. And I don't know, it's just so beautifully done. It was and so real. Like, you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, but now I can understand why that would be a big deal to some people.
I think also, I mean, for me, researching it, the sort of journalist in me was all of the medical research. And I have to say, really gaining an appreciation for having good health, because while, everyone knows someone who is sick, I don't know anyone, for example, who's waiting for a heart transplant. And so when you think about, you can't plan anything. You can't really dream. Every single day is just thinking, am I going to survive till the next day, till I get something? That was it was very sad, but also so interesting to me.
Mhm.
And I learned so much from the doctors I spoke to, from patients I spoke to, and from reading a lot of these. I don't know if you guys have read like When Breath Becomes Air. Did you read that book? Some of these are called death memoirs,
Oh,
which is a
cool.
terrible name, but they're books by people who are seriously ill, and most of them do end up dying. But there are some incredible ones. There's another one called The Bright Hour by Nina Riggs. She had breast cancer. Anyway, I learned so much from them. And so that was another interesting thing for me to try to, get out in the book of just all of the things we need to be grateful for if we don't have them and
Mhm.
appreciate them.
So, Rebecca, before we get too far into questions,
Sorry.
let's get like a quick synopsis. How would you describe your book? The elevator speech?
The Elevator Speech in One Sentence is a book about 6 people that get organ transplants from a victim of a suicide bombing. It is inspired by a true story of a childhood friend of mine, but that takes me past the 2 minutes of my elevator pitch. So
Well, then let's go past it. Let's keep going.
Let's
that's
keep going.
usually what I say. So the true story is that I went to a very small high school here in New Jersey. We only had about 100 kids in our grade, so everybody was pretty friendly. And my locker was next to this really nice girl named Elisa, who had giant dimples and a giant smile and was a really positive person. And I don't know, you guys, I think I've heard you have some teenagers in your house right now.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
we
was
do.
not the teenager that woke up perky and smiled. I was the grumpy teenager and I would kind of stumble into school, but she would be at our lockers. Hi,
Mhm.
and she was a great person to see every morning and a really down to earth, friendly person that everybody liked. So, fast forward a couple of years, we were both on college semesters abroad. I was in London and she was in Israel. And she was this time of year, it was actually just the 30th anniversary on April 9th.
Oh, wow.
So right before Passover, she was on a bus with some friends going to the beach, and suicide bomber rammed his truck into their bus and exploded himself.
Mm.
So she miraculously was intact, but there was a piece of shrapnel that severed her brainstem. So the doctors said she's really a perfect organ donor because she was 20 and healthy. So her parents, I mean, she lived in New Jersey. So, they had to fly, her dad had to fly in, and it was a big deal for many reasons. One, she was the first, I think either the first or one of the first American victims of terrorism there, but also she was a religious Jew. And there really hadn't been many religious Jews that were donating organs because of all of these restrictions about desecrating the body and do we really know when the person's dead, etc. But her family worked really hard to try to get some sort of consensus among the doctors and the rabbis so that they could take something out of this
Mhm.
senseless death. And they did. And she tried to donate 6 organs. Unfortunately, 2 of the people, died like a day out. I mean, they were so sick, but 3 of them survived, including the person who got her heart.
Mhm.
And that is where the title of my book comes from, because the Prime Minister of Israel at the time, Yitzhak Rabin, he gave a news conference and he said, Elisa's heart is alive and beating here in Jerusalem. And I was there. I flew there from London, and I'll never forget that whole experience or that speech. But, I didn't want to write that story because it was very sad. And also, I felt like it really wasn't my story to tell. And then going back to the whole still kind of wanting to be a journalist, but also wanting to try my hand at fiction, I thought, well, if I focus on the recipients, then I get to tailor who they are and try to make this diverse group of people. And then I also don't have to go so like into a bad place in my head so much. And so that's what I did.
I love that. And I will tell you, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I do know people who've had some of these transplants and then also just like friends of family and whatnot. My cousin donated a kidney. She's healthy, like alive still, but she donated a kidney. She happened to be a match for a family friend who, among other things, had very bad lupus and all this stuff. Unfortunately, the kidney did not take, but I mean, the really sad thing is she ended up being killed in a car accident a couple of years later. So it was just like, yeah, of all the things that were wrong with her, they aren't what actually ended her life. But I know how traumatic that was for both my cousin and her, like to give this, try to, help her after she grew up. They grew up together, and then the kidney didn't take. And then this is what's funny. So the pancreas thing. So being in the type 1 diabetes world, in the US, they will not do just a pancreas transplant. You can't get it. Yeah, you have to like it. They really won't do that. They make you with the kidneys because they wait till your kidneys are doing really bad and so then they're like, okay, well now we'll give you both because and so
I did know that. One of my good friends who is an endocrinologist, she helped me a lot with that. And she said, this really doesn't happen that often.
Well, but I Googled it and it said that in Israel it is allowed. Like it's not uncommon.
Well, you just taught me something. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, what's the thing?
No, you're supposed to say, I totally did that research. I totally knew that.
Right.
Well, no, because that was my thing. Because I was like, I know how it is here, but I also know that here the priority is, well, if your pancreas isn't in the best shape, but then now your kidneys, because I mean, right? I mean, I hate to say the thing, but we type 1 diabetics, our stuff costs a lot of money. Like we are helping big pharma make lots and lots of money. And so I understand, plus also major surgery. I get it. They don't want to just have surgery. And I do have a friend she's had one kid. It's lasted way longer because like you shared, the pancreas ones don't typically last very long. It's like less than 10 years, but she's had hers for like 12 years and her kidneys and pancreas are doing great.
So how did that chapter resonate with you? Was it accurate?
Yeah, I felt like it was, once I found out that was allowed, I thought it was very accurate in that. And like, he talked about his Dexcom and everything and
the jelly beans in the drawer. I mean, a few of my friends who are diabetics, that's what they have.
I mean, yeah, I keep,
LJ has I go through Dr. Pepper right now.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm drinking this because right before my blood sugar was saying it was dropping really fast. And I'm like, come on, we don't have time for this. And you might have seen, I looked down, if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, I looked down and was messing with my pump because it was giving me alerts. And if you don't click them fast enough, it'll start doing sounds. But no, I was very happy with how it was handled. Like, I feel like it was very accurate and impressive for someone that is not a type 1 diabetic. I think that can be hard, but I think it's good that you talk to an endocrinologist. And I just thought I liked hearing that it is a possibility for anyone to stop being a diabetic. So like, I think it's cool that you can because the sad thing is if they replace the pancreas faster, perhaps people's kidneys would not fail. Right. And so to me, I'm like, this is.
You could have a whole podcast just on all the silly things that,
Right.
But
no, I was happy with your handling of it. I was not. And to be honest, I'm not the type 1 diabetic that gets offended by any of this stuff. I've been a type 1 diabetic since 1988. And I feel like some of the newer ones, they're like, oh my gosh, someone just recommended I eat cinnamon and it will cure my diabetes. I'm like, dude, I've heard everything under the sun. You just got to laugh it off. Just say thank you so much and move on. But yes, you did a good job. Like nothing wrong with what I read. So yay. And just so you know, diabetics listening, you can get just a pancreas transplant in other countries. So it's true.
Thank you.
I think that you handled the illnesses of everyone because in total, you followed 6 different people who were the recipients of organs.
Right.
2 kidneys, a lung, not a lung, lungs,
2 lungs.
a set of lungs, liver, pancreas, and heart. I felt each person, I felt their illness and I felt how it affected them differently and each of like their different personalities. And I was really surprised that this was your debut novel. Just
Me too.
because the way that you wrote, oh man, it felt so real. You felt like you were there. I'm probably going to get names wrong, but Leal?
Any names? Leia, the first.
Leia, yes.
The girl, Leia, yeah. Or you can call her Lee. I don't. You can pronounce it however you want.
I'm like, I'm an audiobook listener usually, so I had read this on my Kindle and I was like, I need the pronunciation of everybody's names. But I felt her story just so strongly. And then also Yale's, uh,
Yael, yeah.
is it how Eddie's pronounce it?
I pronounce it Yael.
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 I felt
Yeah.
hers just because she was a mother and
Yeah.
just the struggle of what to do if this is
Yeah.
what she wanted. And then also, I had no idea that transplants only lasted so long.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was an eye-opening thing for me. It's like you could have this life-saving organ donation, but then you might need another one later on.
Mhm.
Right.
And so
Unfortunately, I
it
think
broke
that's
my heart.
pretty much true for almost every organ,
Hmm.
kidney, etc. I don't think they last forever, which is why they do try to hold you off as long as you can. For something like a kidney, you're balancing like the awful experience of dialysis with, well, how long is this kidney going to last? I mean, you think you were just saying, LJ, that somebody lasted 12 years, right? Which is a
Right.
long
Which is
time.
amazing. Like she was not promised that at all.
Right. Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate it. I only, how sometimes when you're writing, only when it's over, you think, oh, I guess this was a theme that I hadn't planned on. I think that motherhood came out a lot and I didn't realize that, but I guess because it's so important to me that
Mhm.
my kids are so important to me and the relationships are complicated.
Mhm.
Even with that first chapter, I don't know if we're doing spoilers here, so I'm not going to
It's up
spoil
to it's up to you. You're the author. You can say
You tell
whatever.
me, whatever you think is better, but this isn't spoiling it, but she's a very tough mother. And I
Mhm.
think some of the decisions she makes, you might even want to call them abusive. But
Mhm.
if you ask me, I think she really loves her daughter.
Mhm.
And I think she's trying to do what she thinks is best for her, even though it's not.
Yes, I totally
I
agree.
I felt the mother's like fear for her future and then fear for how she would be accepted after the transplant. Like the question she
Right.
was asking, like, oh, should we go to the rabbi? Should we? And the father was like, no.
Right. Right.
So it really felt like she wanted the best for her daughter, but was scared for her as well and
Yeah.
didn't
Mhm.
know how to balance that, which I think
Right.
is just true for motherhood, right? We all want
It
the best for our
is.
kids,
Which
but
is
it's
also
scary.
why, and the other chapter that you're mentioning with the
Mhm.
character Yael, who has the cystic fibrosis, it's a similar a different quandary, but a similar thing of she wants to do the right thing for her daughter, and she
Mhm.
doesn't know what the right thing is. And I almost felt compassion for this character that I created because I thought it's just a really crappy situation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, no one wants to think about what are like to have a plan for what happens if
Right.
we don't survive, but it's something as a parent you have to have those conversations,
Right.
and it's just awful to think about.
Yeah.
And everyone should have those conversations, right? Not
Yes.
just if you're in a life or death situation, because you never
Mm-mm.
know what's going to happen. I mean, some of the characters we meet in this book, we don't expect them to
Mm-hmm.
pass away, and they do. And then you're like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like
Well,
everybody needs to have a
you
plan.
can ask the questions if you want to spoil it, and you could just tell people they'll too bad for you. But
Well,
that's up
first of
to
all,
you.
everybody should read this book because
Yes.
you
Like,
like I started reading it and I didn't want to put it down. I had to put it
mm-mm.
down because I had to
Yeah.
read for another book for the podcast, but I was like, I want to just finish this one.
Thank you. That's
Same,
very nice.
same. What I will tell you, I have read, I'm trying to see how many now, Lena. I think I might have passed you now. I know I've read 38 now. I don't know where you are.
I'm not sure
Maybe
where
you're
I
still
am.
ahead. But of
Since
the
January 1?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
of the 38 books that I've read so far, this is my favorite book that I've read.
That's
And like I feel like I don't think anything is going to top it this year. Like I know
really nice.
myself
Thank
and
you.
I feel like this is going to be in like top 10 of books that I've ever read. So
Oh,
I just want you to know
thank
that
you.
like
That's so nice.
when I say I love your book, I really did. I think everyone should read this. And like Lena said, like I'm just like this is a debut. Like I cannot believe that. I mean, it's just
It was really good.
It was so good.
Thank
And I
you.
will tell you, one of the things that Lena and I have talked about with other books is like, okay, don't get me wrong. Like in a rom-com, I want everything tied up neat with a bow. Okay, fine. But in this part, some of the most intriguing stuff is that we don't know exactly what happens after. We get hints of things happening that same day. We see other tragedies that happen while maybe this thing is they're about to get good news in other areas of their life. And it just makes it so real that one, like, I mean, this is so trivial, but today, comparatively, today, one of my students was having one of those days where it was like, here's something great. Now here's something horrible. Now here's something great. Now here's something horrible. And I saw her throughout the day because of different things. And it just was just to see that, like, how you can have some of the best news of your life and then have something off, just repeated awful things too.
Right.
But I just thought it was so, I don't know, I loved it. It was so beautifully done. But I have to say one thing, because you have one character, like a minor character, Shahar. I have a student named Shahar, and she was so excited. So I got to give a shout out to Shahar. I told Rebecca that your name is in here and we're excited. So
That's very funny.
yeah. But yeah, I told her, I was like, oh my gosh. And then she wasn't at school the next day. And I was like, girl, like I had to wait to tell her. I was like, I was so excited to tell you. So
That's very funny.
yeah.
And for me, so each, I guess, recipient has, it's not really a chapter, it's more of like their own story. And it leads up to a certain point and then it moves on to the next person. But some of their stories are intertwined and
oh yeah, I love that with the
taxi driver.
drivers, all of them except the last one.
Yeah. I absolutely loved that. And I loved the way that just each story left me like, oh, I want to know what happens next. And when I got done with the book, I texted LJ and I'm like, I need the next book. I'm like, well, when does book 2 come out?
I mean, I hope I write another book, but not about this.
Oh yeah, you have to write another book. No, I agree. Like I mean, I understood how Lena felt like, no, I need to know about some of this, but that I just, at the same time, it was just wrapped up exactly how it should have. Like that is exactly, we got exactly what we should have gotten. And I don't know, it's just so good. Like I'm just so excited.
It left me so much like thinking about each character after I finished. I was like, oh man, now I got to go back. I want to go back and reread it to catch things that maybe I missed the first read through that maybe dealt with another character later on.
Well, it really feels good to hear that, especially considering how long, I mean, I started writing this book probably about 7 years ago, and it took around 4.5 years to write, and then 2 years of trying to get an agent, getting an agent, not getting published by a big publishing house, going to a small indie place. And it's been a long road. So it's really rewarding to hear this nice, amazing praise. So thank you so much. It really is. And just to have it out in the world. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I know. And like you said, like going through all the different characters, I feel like it's easy we learn all the diversity among them, but then you identify in some way with everyone. Like even we said, like the mom that you mentioned, that were like, she was doing things that made you want to shake her, but you could see that it was not from a bad place. It was 100% because she was trying to protect her daughter's future. And then, being a parent of a teenager, like, who was it that the sons, like, I did not like that the brother-in-law, like taking these kids into a life of crime. And then,
well, the mother-in-law, she was the one.
Yes. Oh yeah. Both of them. And it's like, oh my gosh, like that was so stressful. And like having like one of my kids who is about to be 19. Okay. He's pretty on the straight and narrow. Like he has a very good sense of right and wrong, and you cannot force him out of what he thinks is right or wrong, which is how I was at his age. My daughter, all bets are off. I love you, Kaylee, if you're listening. But it's like you just worry like that she's the one that like you kind of have to ask the right questions, unless she's in
another thing that I feel is so universal, and that I mean, I know it sounds kind of hokey, but one of the messages I want to get across is that we're not all that different. And at the very basic level with organs, it doesn't matter what color you are, what religion you are, what sexual orientation you are. You can take one from anybody and it's going to work. So I sort of wanted to take that in a lot of ways of even just, like I said, how parents and children relate. I feel like that's kind of universal. Everybody worries about their kids. You don't want your kid to fail math. You want your kid to be able to figure out what's right or wrong and not succumb to peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I think this concept of illness, stressing a marital relationship,
Mm-hmm.
stressing work,
Yeah.
Yeah, all
feeling
these
of someone,
cares. Yeah.
they're just so many things that it doesn't really matter who you are. You could be from any part of the world, and maybe it's a different kind of work. Someone could be a shepherd in one place and a computer programmer in another place, but it's still that same concept of, if I can't get up in the morning, I can't do what I'm supposed to be doing.
And
Yeah.
illness doesn't occur in a vacuum. Like,
Right.
No.
when you get sick, you still have to be a mother. You still are a restaurant owner. You're still trying to
Right.
figure out how to raise your children. You're still doing all these things, but you're just that much more stressed. And I kind of resonated with David because he has to become dependent.
Yeah.
He's the one that gets a liver transplant. He becomes dependent on his wife and his son. And
Yeah.
he feels that. Like, you feel the heaviness of the burden that he feels.
Yeah.
And
Right,
I
because
related to that.
especially someone like him, who I really drew him as a character that took so much pride in his restaurant.
Yes.
And he was so happy to feed his customers and just have people say, wow, this is delicious. And when you
And if
can't
they
do
didn't,
that, it's like, what does he have,
yeah.
So I appreciate that. And that was something else that I felt like that could resonate with people all over. I hoped that it would.
Oh, I think it did. And you know what? I'm gonna shift to another character. Severin, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I kept wanting to call him
So
Severus.
I know. I know.
It's like, it's not Snape.
Yeah, I think it might actually not even be Irish. I think it may be Scottish.
Okay.
But I just love the name, and I
Mhm.
loved that it means severe, and it's so the opposite of who he is.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't know. I just went with it.
Well, what I loved about his character, in addition to, obviously identifying the type 1 diabetes, but what I loved is I feel like when you have something with a priest considering leaving, it's usually because of like something romantic or whatnot. And I loved that it was not that kind of love that was drawing him out, that it was a love for an unwanted child that
Yeah.
he had essentially, fallen in love with. And I love that. And in my head, he gets better. He's able to adopt her because no one else is going to want her. And I mean, I know that's hard for him. That would be hard to have to leave what he had always known. But I loved that piece, that it was so pure. And it was, again, like he had accepted that he was a priest. Like he had made that choice, and then here, I mean, obviously he had to deal with his diabetes, but then also like just a chance encounter with a sweet baby made him just kind of want to change trajectories. And I loved also that it was included like that he felt like this is where God was leading him, because I think that is something where sometimes people are like, well, God would never lead you somewhere there. Well, it's not a bad thing. Like it's not bad to not be. It's a beautiful thing. It's him sacrificing what he like his other dreams for someone else. I just picture him with that sweet baby and them living happily ever after. There we
Thank
go.
you. That's really nice. I really enjoyed writing that chapter a lot because it was challenging. I mean, I wrote at the point of view of a man, and I'm a woman, and I wrote in the point of view of a Catholic priest, and I'm Jewish. So I had to do a lot of research, but I loved his character, and I loved all of the little things he did, like medical clowning. There were
Oh,
so many
yes.
nice
So
things
sweet.
about it. And there too, I was lucky to have friends that could talk to me a little bit about certain prayers and the rosary and
Yeah.
help make it a little more real, so that someone that is a practicing Catholic won't read it and say, what the heck are you talking about here?
Well,
I
I'm not Catholic, but I do have a lot of Catholic relatives, and I think that they would love the chapter too. So,
Thank you.
I think it was really kind of cool how each character had different religious backgrounds, whether it was very Orthodox Jewish or maybe kind of, I don't know, what do you call it, lackadaisical,
Yeah. Or
but
moderate.
not practicing. Yeah, I'm like,
Not
what's the right
practicing,
word?
right.
But then
Casual.
everybody had their
Or
own different beliefs.
cultural, because we
Right.
say here we also can say there's cultural Christians like that
Right.
Mhm.
maybe celebrate the holidays, but then it's really just about that.
Right.
So maybe
Right.
like cultural. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Lane, I interrupted you.
No, but I think that's exactly it. But a lot of times we see people from different religions and we see one facet of it. And it's just like Christianity. And I think that I think Christians need to realize that it's not
I agree.
all fanatical or a certain way. I mean, Hoda's character I loved because she's a beautician and
Mhm.
she was talking about, according to Muslim law, you have to close the windows and have them blocked. But then people can take off their
Hijab.
head coverings and then
Yeah.
they can get their hair done because
Mhm.
I didn't know that you could take off your hijab whenever you were at home, whenever it was just your family around. So I learned something with that. But then I was like, why not make
Yeah.
yourself beautiful and make yourself feel
Yeah.
beautiful?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I really appreciated that learning opportunity.
Thank you. It was great for me. I watched a ton of YouTube videos. I read a lot of books and I tried to talk to whomever I could talk to, which again is, the former journalist in me because I love talking to people. I always feel like I learned something from everyone. I learned so much. In fact, the woman Hoda, the hairdresser, she's a real person in real life. Not
Oh, is she?
exactly, but there's a barber shop in town where I used to take my son to when he was little. And she's an Egyptian Muslim. She's not, from a different part of the world, but we would talk all the time. How we're so similar. We have so many things and like, why can't we just get along? And she's a wonderful woman. And so I haven't actually shown her the book yet because I haven't been there in a while. My son's
Aw.
23 now. I don't take him for haircuts anymore. But it is inspired by her because she's an amazing person and taught me a lot.
I love that so much. And, so I'm a high school teacher, so I've had students of various backgrounds. And, like Lena was saying about I hate to say it, but I mean, I'm a Christian, so I feel like I can say it. Like, a lot of times Christians, like, refuse to see the extremes in Christianity and only see extremes in other faith. And I've had so many Muslim students over the years that have shared how like they have felt, discriminated against because of that. And then I've also tried to be like, look, I try to tell other people that, have wrong impressions. I'm like, you are generalizing a whole group of people, which is not good. Like, have you actually ever gotten to know someone?
Right.
Because when you do, you will see that there are amazing people and there are awful people, no matter religion, race, any of that. It really has not as much to do with that as people want to say.
Yeah.
And like, I just remember I had this sweet boy like 10 years ago. And he was like, sometimes people are just so hateful to me. Like, they act like I'm going to bomb them. And, I'm just trying to be nice to everyone. I'm like, oh, sweetheart, I know, like you are. And then he was like, why don't they understand that in the Quran, it's like the Old Testament. There are wars and things in there. That's the violence. Not everyone is violent now. And, I'm like, no, I know people like to focus on extremists because it's more interesting. But yeah, I mean, I loved how you handled this. And for us to see that there might have not as been, there was obviously some overt because of the bombing, but at the same time, seeing people trying to live in community and trying to process and trying to, kind of reject traditionally what would have been drawing them apart. And I somewhere in there, it you straight up said, like, on the inside, we're the same. Like, when you're dying, when you need an organ, then you don't care so much where that comes from because it will allow you to live. And I just, like you said, we're all the same on the inside. I think that's such an
We're all the
important
same on the
message.
inside.
The heart recipient, whether it was Yusuf or Yosef.
Oh, I know. Oh, that too.
I was like, that whole chapter, I'm like, I want them both. Can we just split a heart in half and
I
both
want
of them
them
get
to.
a heart?
Well, me too. And that's why I ended it the way I did because I want them both
You could have
together.
just, and
Yeah.
so in your head, do you also not decide, or do you have in your
I
head?
do not know. I feel like
Okay.
I know most of the other characters, what happens to them. I truly, truly, honestly do not know which boy gets it because I want them both to get it.
And I love that you did that with these are like youngest characters.
Yeah.
And I love their story too, just
Yeah.
how they became such good friends. And that's so real, I feel, especially with teenagers. Like,
Right.
I mean, listen, I
Bonding.
think
Yeah.
that's true. You know, in a perfect world, if you put any two people in a room together, you could probably get along.
yeah.
And certainly in a hospital, if you go into any hospital, again, anywhere in the world, most people are nice to each other because you're just fighting for your life. And so everything else you're like, forget about that. I just want to survive. And the doctors are just there and the nurses for one purpose, to help you survive. So I tried to just tap into that as best as I could, while also hoping that people will get invested in the characters and like them for the differences that they are.
And I also loved, as I'm looking at my notes, which I took very extensive notes, but I loved, while you were talking about that, I was thinking about too, like how you showed the healthcare workers and all of the, like how much you could see they cared about their patients and were, I don't know, it just like almost like it came off, they had more compassion than the patients' families in a lot of ways. And it makes sense. They spend more time with the
Right.
patients in a lot of ways than they get to spend with their families because like we talked about other obligations, work or taking care of other children and things like that. And I loved all of the nurses that were mentioned throughout. Like they were fun characters.
Yeah.
And to see how they helped all of them, like especially like at the end, the kids with the like when they're doing like
The
I love
child
that they were
life
doing
therapist.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
that
the
was so
dinner.
fun. And I love that they're just like one day they were just like painting,
Yeah.
right? One day. And it's like, I love this two teenage boys who probably at school would be like,
Would never have
no
done
way.
that.
And then they're
Exactly.
just doing,
But they
I
have
just
no
love it.
energy to do anything else. So
Yeah.
this is what
But
they
yeah,
have to do.
I just love it.
Thank you. I felt also that way, that those nurses, I mean, all of them, but especially the nurses are often the ones that really are getting into the nitty gritty. And then these child life therapists, I don't know if they have them at hospitals near you. I'm sure they do, but they play a really important role. The parents can't always stay there the whole day. So to have someone there that can help explain something on terms a kid can understand, and just to provide some emotional support, which is also probably a little bit easier because they're not as emotionally invested. The
Right.
parent, the kid can see on the parent's face their worry. So no matter how much the parent says it's going to be okay, the kid's like, I can tell your face and you're lying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. And, my son, it's a long story, but my son was in the NICU when he was born. He had what they call wimpy white boy syndrome. He was born a month early and he just wouldn't eat. He was like, I'm good. Y'all just pour it down my nose, whatever, for a few days. But because he was in the NICU, at the time they had like 4 babies in a room. And for the first couple of days, the other babies did not have visitors. And one of them, it was because he had been care flighted from a small town and mom had had a C-section and they would not release her from the
Oh
hospital.
my gosh. Wow.
And there actually were 2, I think, like that. And then there was another one, the 4th baby in the room. My son was in there 8 days. And I was there most of the time, never saw his parents. And I don't know. I mean, maybe they were coming, like we had a rule because I would have like lived in that room. And so the rule was I was allowed to get there from shift change in the morning and stay till shift change at night. And then I had to go home and go to sleep. So maybe they came later in the evening. But either way, like you said, there was no one that could sit there all day. And the only reason I could, well, I was on maternity leave, and
Right.
so I could. But if I wasn't, like if he had been in there way longer, eventually I would have to work too.
I did CPR classes for parents coming out of the NICU, and some of them, they had jobs they had to get back to. They had like their baby had been there for months, and so their maternity leave had run out. They had to go back to work, or they had other children, or they were from an outlying area and they couldn't just be there all the time. So I really felt for the poor little baby. I wanted her to get all the hugs and cuddles, and I was glad that they
and then
found the person
all the
for her.
nurses. Well, it's like you said, like it'd be like one nurse for these 4 babies. And so like they're having to check vitals, they're having to do all these things, but then they're also trying to snuggle them and, make sure the ones, I wanted to snuggle them all, but obviously that would not have appropriate, probably.
You can't steal other people's babies.
No, I call it baby borrowing, but yeah, not in the hospital. Not if you haven't met the parents first.
Yeah. Oh, that's something else I didn't know about the whole baby cuddler thing, and that's a
Mhm.
real
Oh,
thing
yeah.
too, which
Mhm.
is such a brilliant idea. Who
It
wouldn't want to
is.
hold a baby for a little bit and get some baby therapy, and then
Right?
these babies need it because the nurses are busy.
Yeah.
So it was such a good writing the book was really such a good learning experience in that way for me. I just learned so much about so many different things, and I hope that whatever I write next, I'll also be able to be enriched the same way that I was now.
Have you been playing with some ideas? I'm like, what are you thinking
Well, I'm
about? Have you
very
been?
interested in terrorism. That
Mhm.
was in college. I majored in political science with the concentration in terrorism. I really wanted to be a war reporter, but then I ended up getting married really young and I did not go to war. But I'm fascinated by terrorism because it's so the opposite of human instincts and I don't understand it. I do have an idea of something else. It will be completely different in that it's not about Israel, it's not about organ donation, but it will involve an act of terrorism because that's just what I'm interested in. So it's hard to write when you're still in this. Like even though
Yeah.
I'm done writing right now, sometimes it's even hard to read when I'm in an active writing. I'm so terrified to read fiction because I'm worried that I'm going to plagiarize like accidentally. And I also don't want to get too invested in someone else's book and then like lose my train of thought. So
Mhm.
I end up reading mostly nonfiction when I'm writing. Now I'm letting myself read just normal books, which is nice.
Mhm.
Little
But
break.
hopefully in a few months, right now I'm trying to make a big push to do these podcasts and different talks and book clubs, and I'm
Mhm.
having a lot of fun with it. When it slows down, then I'll try to write my next book.
That's so
I
fun.
can't wait until you do write it because I want to
Me
read
neither.
I will give you guys the beta version and you can.
it. I would love to read it.
We definitely would. So, since right now you're not writing because you're busy promoting, and you said so now you can kind of read. So, when you are able to read, what fiction, like what genres do you like, or do you have like favorite books?
So I generally love historical fiction for all
Mm-hmm.
of the reasons we were just talking about. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I just learned something, or fiction that takes place in another part of the world. It doesn't, and it could be
Mm-hmm.
current, but it just, but I just read actually last weekend, The Berry Pickers, Amanda, I
I'm
think
gonna
her name
write
is
this
Amanda
one down.
Peters. I don't want to mess up her name. Um, it was another one of these top new releases on the library, and I went through it really quickly. It was a good read, and it was, it wasn't radically. It took place, I think, in the 1960s in Maine.
Okay.
So I liked that. But I would say if I had to pick a genre in general, it's historical fiction.
Well, like you said, it was a library, top for the library. So that's how I think how we were introduced. A friend had the same thing happen with one of our favorite books from last year. Have you read Amy Tan's Circle of Women?
No, I read Amy Tan. Didn't she write The Joy Luck Club?
It's not Amy
No,
Tan.
that okay, well,
Right.
what is it?
Let me
Lady
look.
Tan.
Lady
It's
Oh,
Tan.
Lady Tan.
Lady
I didn't
Tan
read
Okay.
Circle of
Amy Tan.
Women. I'm like, not
Okay.
Amy Tan.
You know what? Hang on, let me
Okay.
see. I bet it's it's right here.
Okay, so I'll write that down. Lady Tan, okay.
Yeah, sorry, not Amy Tan, Lady Tan, Circle of Women. Sorry, but one of our friends, like, it was like sitting out at the library. So she's like, oh, this sounds interesting. And it's based on a true woman in, like, I don't know, I
14th
don't know how,
century
yeah,
China.
something, yeah, in China. And it's about a woman who was a midwife and in that time. And anyway, it's really good.
Okay, I'm gonna read it.
But that made
Sometimes
me
those
think of
top of
that.
the library picks are where it's
Yeah.
at.
Yeah. Well, because our friend read it and then she kept raving about it. So then Lena and I both were like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to read it too. And that's one too where I got it from the library and then I loved it. So I'm like, well, I got to get my trophy.
Yeah, that is what I like. I tend to not, even though they're fun, I don't love beach reads or
Yeah.
kind of rom-coms so much. I have nothing against them. I don't know. They don't speak to me as much
Yeah.
as these
That's
other
okay.
books do. And then for my own book, there were two books that were really inspiring to me.
Mhm.
One of them is a book that was actually just a magazine article. It's called Hiroshima by
Mhm.
John Hersey. And he was one of the first, maybe even the only American journalist that was invited to go to Japan after the bomb was dropped. And what he
Wow.
did is instead of just writing, 100,000 people died, he also picked just about six survivors to focus on them and their
Oh,
families, what
wow.
happened. So that was so interesting. And he was such a good writer. And then there was another book, also like a classic, Thornton Wilder's The Bridge of San Luis Rey.
I just went back and reread that one after you had mentioned that.
So that
I love it.
also similar thing where there's this bridge, it collapses, and he writes why these people. And so I just like that concept here too of just saying, we can't answer the question why, because that's like a crazy existential question, but more just
Mhm.
what is the ripple effect that happens, for these people. So those are a little more heavy, straight books, but those are the books that I tend to like a lot. Although I would love to write a funny book someday.
Oh,
I'm always so serious and intense, and everyone I know is like, you can't write a funny book, but
Oh, that's
I'm
a
gonna
challenge
try.
then.
It is a challenge, but someday I would love to write a funny book.
hey, we'll read that too.
Yeah.
Thank
We'll
you.
read anything you write. Like,
Thank
I'm
you.
just for real. Like, we can't wait. So
Thank you.
hurry up and get through the book
I
tour
will do it.
and then start writing because we're gonna need it.
Let's see. We had talked about the books you read. We talked
Mhm.
about kind of where you're at with your writing right now. What's
Mhm.
the best way for people to get your book? Is it to go to Amazon?
My book is available pretty much on any online retailer, from
Okay.
Amazon to Barnes and Noble to Walmart. Unfortunately, one of the negatives of going with a small publisher, and I think I'm only like the 10th book that this imprint has, is that if Barnes and Noble buys your book and then it doesn't sell after a certain number of months, you have to buy it back at a premium. And
Oh.
so a giant publisher, like HarperCollins, has a ton of money and they're just like, okay, it doesn't matter, and they'll work
Mhm.
it out. But with a smaller publisher, it could be thousands of dollars. And then when you're only making a few $1,000,
Yeah.
Right.
it doesn't make sense. So that's the only negative. It is in a couple of select, like if the not for me, like there's, I know in Long Island there's a store where they like the book and they said, we'll buy a few copies at a
Oh,
time.
nice.
So, but in general, it's online and it's online everywhere in the world. I've been
That's
really
awesome.
trying to reach out to people on Instagram because I feel like those people are not getting paid. I know you guys talked about how we can buy you a coffee, but you're not really
Yeah.
you're doing this because it's fun. I
Yeah.
find the people on Instagram, they just love books and they love
Mhm.
reading and they want to share it with their friends. And so I appreciate that. And I have sent my book to Abu Dhabi, to Sweden, I just sent one today to the Philippines. And I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
why not? If you want to read it, go for it. And then tell
Mhm.
your friends about it because they can buy it anywhere in the
Love
world.
it. Yeah.
Only in English. It hasn't been translated, but I
Yet.
I love
Yet.
that. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. No, and for real, guys, like I love the cover too. It's just so good. I mean, I just, I'm at a loss of words now, but I'm telling
Thank you.
you, you need to read this. You need to read this,
You need to
guys.
read it and then message us so that we can all talk about it.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
we hinted at spoilers, but I didn't want to go
We
too
didn't give
far.
anything away.
Yeah.
No, you just have to go read it. It's just so good. Like,
It's a good book.
I love it.
I usually do a book for Christmas. Like I'll pick one that I'll give to a couple people. I think
It's a
this
nice
might be
idea.
the one. And
Thank
you can
you.
get it
I
on
really
Kindle
appreciate
too,
it.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can get it on all forms, hardcover,
Okay.
paperback, ebook. I actually just tomorrow I have a Goodreads giveaway starting.
Oh, fun.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We'll
That's
have to go
fun.
I
promote
figured
that.
why not do some of these fun things. So that's starting tomorrow. And as I go on, I'll see if there's other fun stuff to do. But that's my first. I'm doing this solo, so I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out what the right thing is to do, but that seemed like a pretty easy thing. So
Love
there is
it.
a Goodreads giveaway starting tomorrow, I think until May 7th.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. We can
Because
definitely.
this will publish on April
28th?
20. Yes,
Is that right?
April 28th. So there's still time, guys,
There's still
to
time.
enter the giveaway that I'm sure Lena will link in the show notes
I
because she does
100%
that
will.
fancy stuff.
I'll link
So,
it in
yeah.
the show notes, and then I'll also make sure that LJ puts it on our Instagram and all of our other socials.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
will.
Thank you.
So yeah.
All right. Well,
All right.
it was so lovely talking with you. I really
It
enjoyed
really
it.
was.
You guys are
Loved your
too
book.
nice, really too nice to me. Yeah. I feel like I can't do any more podcasts because no one's going to be listening.
No, I bet they will. If they read it, they're going to love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
But you also both, I listened to a bunch of your episodes, and
Thank you.
people feel like they're your friends, probably. Like, do people
Oh,
ever run
thank
into you in the street and say, like, how to talk to you?
Okay, Rebecca, we just have to we're going to bring up the thing that comes up every episode. If you've listened to more than 2 episodes, you have listened to more episodes than my mom, Claudia, I'm talking to you, than she has listened to. By the way, we were at this event where we saw one of my son's friend and his mom and his grandmother, who we would always go watch them play basketball together. And there's like an alumni game. So we're sitting there and his mom, shout out Michelle, was like, I listened to your podcast. And then she turns to my mom and was like, you don't. She's like, just so you know, they mention it all the time that you don't listen. So thank you,
That's
Rebecca,
funny.
for listening to us.
When I was listening, I guess it was maybe the last one, you were talking about like weird conversations in a car. And I was thinking, oh, I have to tell them about this funny story. And I'm like, they don't know me.
No, but tell them to know.
Very quickly, I was in an Uber and the driver got a phone call that, he just pressed speaker and the person said, hello, I'm calling from the morgue. So right
Oh,
away, I
no.
was like, what's happening here? And she said, would you like to hear how your brother died? And I'm thinking the whole time, like, and so he turns and he says, do you mind if I stay on the phone? I'm like, not at all.
Your
I'm so
brother just died.
And
Oh
then,
my gosh.
so she talked about it and, she told him all the stuff and then he hangs up and I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard everything. And I'm like, do you want to talk about your brother a little? So we ended up having this really nice conversation, but I thought that was not a conversation to have on speaker when you're driving. It was one of the weirder ones.
Oh my
I
gosh, I
cannot
love
even
that,
imagine.
But you're both very easy to talk to and easy to listen to. So it was
Thank you.
it was a very good entry for me because I didn't feel nervous being here with you.
Good.
Thank you
That's
so
what I
much.
like to hear.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. We, for real, are so glad that you're here. We will have to have you back. Maybe we'll have you back if we'll have some literary topic you want to just chat with us.
Sure.
We can bring you back for that if you have.
That would be fun.
We'll figure that out for the future.
Well, that was just so much fun talking to Rebecca Wolf about her book, Alive and Beating, inspired by her childhood friend, Elisa Flatow. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. It was just such an amazing book, and it was so wonderful to talk with her. I want her to write another book so we can go ahead and start reading it.
I do too. It was so delightful. And we're not kidding. Like, you need to buy this book. You need to read it. It is so good. I'm going to be sharing this also on my personal stuff that, has nothing to do with Bookstagram, Book Talk, any of that. I'm going to be putting this because I want people that maybe they don't read as much as we do, Lena, but I feel like this is a far-reaching book.
This is a far-reaching book, and the fact that there's little stories. So it's split up into 6 different stories. So it really felt like it went really quickly.
It did. And that's good if it's not a super long book. Like, my physical copy has that's acknowledgments, 200 and nope, that's author. So 230 pages. And
split up between 6. That's good.
Yeah. So if you're like,
math.
okay,
I don't know the math for that, but it's good.
Yeah, but like if you have like, okay, I only have time to read like one part. Okay, read one part and then come back and because you're going to get encapsulated stories. You are. Oh my gosh, you're not even kidding. Like when we were talking to her and saying because we both started it and then we had to pause to go read something else for the book club and then for the podcast. And then we had to then we could come back. And I was just like dying to get back because once I started, like we're talking, I think even like the prologue, I was hooked. So yeah. But anyway,
I was hooked from her describing it to me whenever she sent us the Instagram message about would we be interested in reading it. When she described it, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, that sounded so good. And it is so good. It's even better than the description. So you got to read it. But we have not done literary lately in 2 weeks, Lena. So
I know it's been so long. We had Claire Sanema on and now Rebecca Wolf. And so now we need to just catch up with our friends.
Well, first of all, we have to talk about that. So this is Monday. So this coming Saturday,
oh, that's right.
one or both of us will be on a panel at Patchouli Joe's bookstore in Denton, Texas, on a panel about Claire Sanema's book, Killer Story. So if you want to come out and meet Claire, maybe buy a signed book, maybe see us talk, I don't know. We don't know, but you should come.
So we'll be moderating her conversation. So we'll be asking her some hard-hitting questions. That's our style.
Yep. We're so scary. But yeah, so you should come check it out. But yeah, literary lately, that's one thing. I also have been putting a lot of bookmarks in books. If you were following along on our stories, I have hit... Yeah, you've got yours right there. I got mine in the car. I hit a couple more Walmarts. I hit a Walmart in Anna, Texas. So if you're up in this area and you go to Anna, Texas to the book section, I put it in like current releases, like new releases. For example, The Perfect Divorce just came out and they have like the sprayed edges that looks like blood. I put them in there. I didn't even buy one for myself because I was like, people are going to buy this. Let me put the bookmark in. And did some other, here comes Luigi to visit us. And so, oh my gosh, don't knock over my wine. Guys, everyone say goodbye. Go to your chair. But yeah, so I put probably about 20 in. And so, but now I got to order us some more for our event at Patchouli Joe's. Woohoo.
Yes,
but yeah, that's the event side. I have finished a few books since we last chatted. I finished Sunrise on the Reaping, which we're going to talk about next week, right? Then I finished Journey to the Cross, which was my Lent devotional, which I will say it's the best one I've ever done. So if you are into Lent and all that next year, you should totally do that one. Then obviously we both finished Alive and Beating. I decided to shelf Schindler's List for right now because I got overwhelmed with all the books that I was reading at once.
We did an episode on the pressure, and the pressure is real, people.
The pressure is real. So I took that as advice to put that back on the shelf. I also have decided for now, and even though it's supposed to be a book club book, I'm shelving Anne of the Island. I'm just not in the right mood for it, unfortunately. I did finish my BSF study, which is Revelation the Hope, and it actually was on Goodreads. Because I don't know if you know this, users cannot add books on Goodreads anymore. You still can on Storygraph. No, they took it away like 6 months ago because I was like, what is happening? I cannot do this. And they did it because there were too many people doing it and they wanted just the official ones from the publisher. So, oh my gosh, Kat. Anyway, I know he's knocking over my Dr. Pepper from my low blood sugar earlier. So then what else? Oh, I finished A Tangled Web by Leslie Rule. That was a true crime audiobook. And Leslie Rule is the daughter of famed true crime author Anne Rule, who is also the one that volunteered. Yes, she volunteered at a crisis hotline with Ted Bundy before people knew he was a serial killer, and she wrote a book about him. And he knew that she was writing a book about this killer, and because she had talked to him about it, and she had no idea that he was sitting right there. So anyway, and then I am still reading Anna Karenina, but I made huge progress. I've read over 200 pages in the last few days, and so it's going to happen. That is the only book that I am currently reading, and I'm going to finish it before I'm allowed to start anything else. So it's happening this month.
How many pages left do you have in that? Because it's
less
like
than
700. 700 total? 790 or something?
Most editions have over 800 to 1,000. This particular one, it's 740. And I I think I have like 180 pages left. So it's not bad.
It's doable. The end is in sight.
And I will say, I want to reiterate, it is really good. It's dense, so it's hard to read quickly. And, you know, I kept having other things to read. And so I'm like, okay, I finally have time. I can dedicate it to this book, which I have really enjoyed, but I want to finish it before next month because we are reading another classic next month for our book club that we'll talk about later, maybe. I don't know. But Lena, what have you been up to literary lately?
So I had my kids, their World's Robotics. We made it to Worlds, so that was exciting.
Woo!
We even made it to the semifinals, so that was even more exciting. Their matches had about 3 hours between them, and then there was one where it was like 4.5 hours. So I had some solid reading time. And this time our hotel was further away and I can't drive. So I was at the convention center kind of locked in. So I did finish quite a few books, which I was excited about. The first one I finished on the way there was Every Beautiful Mile. And I think we had talked about, the last time that we talked about literary events was I had so many books to read and had them staggered so that I could get them done. Every single one of those got pushed. And I was like, oh my gosh. I think Alive and Beating, which we did our interview tonight with Rebecca, that was the only one that didn't end up getting pushed, which I had to laugh about because I was like, I was so stressed about it. And isn't that just life whenever you're stressed about something and then it just like, it's fine.
Exactly. Because we were supposed to, 2 weeks ago, we were going to record with Claire. Last week, we were going to record for Sunrise on the Reaping, but we were not going to be ready for that one anyway, and we had to push Claire. So it's all good.
It's just
we're
life.
all
Life
caught
happens.
up.
But I did finish almost all of the books that I needed to read. So I finished Every Beautiful Mile, which is it was for Ink and Aura Society. It's a book club for writers who want to read new writers. So this was a book. It was about a mother and her 2 kids basically traveling cross country on her husband's itinerary that he had left. He passed away in an accident and she has just struggled to come to terms with it. And so she takes this trip that they had like an RV and he had planned out this trip for them. So they decided to go take the trip and she's kind of discovering herself along the way. So it was good. I think that having to read it kind of pushed me a little bit. And I would recommend it to someone, especially someone who likes that side of rediscovery and that kind of thing. I finished Sunrise on the Reaping, which we will talk about because I have words for that book.
Yep, me too.
I read You Are Fatally Invited, which...
Oh yeah, how was that?
I don't know how I found that book.
I don't know.
But it was kind of like a thriller. Everybody is an author. They all got invited to this island.
Emily, you found out from Emily because I was like, wait, I know I've heard of this. And as soon as you started describing it, Emily told us about it. This is why.
So it's a group of writers that come to the island and people start dying. And then there's like a evil mastermind behind it. And it kind of has the Agatha Christie, was it None of Us, One of Us?
Oh, yeah. And then there were none.
And then there were none. Thank you. I'm like, you'll know it.
Yes.
It had that vibe to it. And I enjoyed it. I think that there were so many characters, though. It was really hard to keep track of who was who. And sometimes they didn't mention their names. They just had like she or he. And so then you're trying to like, okay, remember who did what. And it was multiple points of view, which was kind of a struggle. I enjoyed the ending, enjoyed how it all came together. I just wish that I didn't have to think so hard while I was reading it. And not that I don't want to think while I'm reading, but it was more about thinking about keeping characters straight.
And were you listening to this?
I was. And so then...
So I think that makes it hard.
I almost wanted to like make a character sheet and start, mapping things out for people. I did finish Alive and Beating, which... That was one that I finished during the 4-hour break between my kids' matches. And I was just like, I was texting LJ. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need another book right away. And now I'll never have one because there's not going to be a sequel to it. So I'll just have to use my imagination about what happened.
You will.
I'll survive. But she did mention, Rebecca Wolf had mentioned to me in an email that she had gotten some of her kind of inspiration for this book from reading The Bridge of San Luis Rey by Thornton Wilder. And I had read that a few years ago and enjoyed it, but I couldn't really remember much about it. So I went back and reread that. It's a very short book. I think listening to it was only 4 hours.
Okay.
So it was really good. And it is about like what happens. Not only there's like this bridge that falls, but what happens to the people that gets them to the bridge? Like, why are they on the bridge to begin with? And then afterwards, what kind of happens to the people in their lives? So
interesting. So
again,
maybe what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing, Lena, is perhaps I should read it, and maybe we do a bonus episode.
Well, there you go.
And maybe that could be our first bonus episode.
That could be.
Just thinking out loud here, because guys, we might be doing that soon. Anyway, continue, Lena.
So those are the books that I finished reading. I'm currently reading. I'm still on track for this one to be done in time for my book club that I cheat on you with. They're reading Ultramarine, which it is the book that's published by Deep Vellum. But I found out that it's actually a French book that they translated.
Oh.
And so then it was published by Deep Vellum. So I'm curious. I've read Japanese translations before, but I've never read I guess Albert Camus. I've read his books, but
okay, so there you go.
Modern day, I guess, book that's French that I've read the translation of. And then I am reading Anne of the Island just because I wanted something fun. I was like, this is perfect timing because it's kind of fun, lighthearted.
Yeah.
My work, we moved. I think I told you all about that. We moved to kind of like a warehouse. And one of the fun things is it has this garage door that comes up so that you can like let all the air in and everything. Well, it's also letting in all the spiders.
No.
So
no.
Texas has had some rainy weather the last few days. And so today I took a picture. It was so gross. And I sent it to my family. And then my kids were teasing me like, Mom, there's something on your leg. Because it was a giant wolf spider.
You'll have to post this after this episode publishes so they can see.
And then not only that, my two bosses had to go do something. So I was there by myself. So I was listening to my audiobook and I looked down and there's 2 medium-sized wolf spiders just hanging out by where I am. And I'm like, I am literally talking to the spiders. I'm like, you guys stay over there. Don't come near me. Stay where you are.
Oh my gosh. Oh no. Oh no.
So I was like, I need something lighthearted. So I did turn on Anne of the Island and I listened to Anne.
Oh, I would too. I'd be like,
because I was like, this is way better than thinking about spiders.
Oh my gosh. Seriously. No, no spiders. No, no.
But I did already decide that as soon as those 2 books are done, I'm going to read a book that I had gotten like pre-bought before it was released, the Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man, because her first book was such a warm comfort read that I can't wait to go into that one. And so hopefully by the next time we meet, I'll have that one finished as well. And
that'll be fun.
You had mentioned whenever we were talking with Rebecca, how many books do you have read?
What did I say? Hang on. I've got my phone right here. I should have written it down. 38. I finished book 38 today.
So I have
how many have you read?
40. So I'm 2 ahead still. The challenge is working.
Yes. Yes. I'm very proud of Lena. I will gladly push her over the finish line.
I have a feeling though this summer when you're off of school and you have summer reading that will change.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, possibly, but I will be working some summer camps for my other job. So
true.
We'll see. But you're right. Sitting in the pool and I do like to do audiobooks at the pool because then I can just lay in a raft with my like little cheap waterproof or water resistant earbuds and just close my eyes and just listen. And it's amazing. So we'll see.
Amazing.
It's possible.
I think I need to buy some cheap earbuds. I just go to Jack Carter.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to not a podcast, but an audiobook in the chairs and like the loungers, but it's so hot. So you need to get in the water.
Oh no, I will send you mine. Like I've been splashed with them. I haven't dropped them in the water, but they're I mean, maybe they were $30 because I got them because I was like, I'm not risking my AirPods in the pool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if they say it's okay if they drop in and you get them out. I'm too expensive.
Too expensive. Too expensive. So we have been reading and we've been challenging. I have not looked at our bingo card in a while. So
I haven't either.
I think that's something that I'm going to do
for next week.
For next week to see. I haven't even marked down because I had meant to go through and like write down which book marked the spot so I could see where I was at. And I haven't done that yet. I actually tried printing it at home and I accidentally printed it at work somehow. I was like, how did that happen? Like, I have no idea. So I guess it just connected to the Wi-Fi as soon as I got there and then it printed.
And just
because I had work stuff that printed at home. I was like, I give up.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love it. So yeah, I think that's good. We can, because I know technically it will be May when that episode comes out, but we can still like wrap up April. And I think that's good. We should check in with that because I don't think I've looked at my copy in a while either. So I need to be like, what fits where?
So next week, we'll be talking about Sunrise on the Reaping. So if you haven't read that, you still have a little bit of time. We gave you some extra time. So just like everybody else, we're just like pushing things. April is the month of push. Push it out.
It really is. And should we tell them what our May book is going to be? We've probably mentioned it before, but
I think we did.
Do the honors.
It's Emma. It's a classic.
Yes.
And
it is a classic.
I'm excited to read this because I don't think I've ever read it. And I think I rolled my eyes at the movie. So I think I need to go back and watch the movie again because I was like, I don't want to watch, I don't know what you call it. Is it a Regency?
Yeah, Regency.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't know.
Technically? I don't know.
Technically.
A classic. I didn't want to watch a movie that was a classic. I just couldn't do it. So now I need to go back and read it and then watch it.
Because I agree. When I watched it in the 90s, like I did not appreciate the movie at all. Like I was like, it's okay. But then reading the book as an adult and then watching it made me appreciate it more. I think the only one, like I loved Sense and Sensibility, the movie from like the get-go. I don't know. I just liked the story more. But I will say, having read all of Jane Austen's books at least twice, Emma was the first one I read. And I know Pride and Prejudice gets all the love in the world, but I just think Emma, the book, is just delightful. So I'm excited for us to read it. And especially because we're the Clueless generation and Clueless is based on it. So it makes it extra fun. It does. So it's going to be, well, maybe we'll have to like, when we do talk about it.
We'll have to have a watch party of Clueless too.
Yes, we totally should. And kind of talk about Clueless, Emma, and Emma the movie. Done. Yeah, we got it.
We're just making up episodes here.
We really are. I mean, I haven't even looked. We had a plan. Like, we had kind of a little sketch of the year, and I haven't looked at that in like a month. So I have no idea. Like, I don't know what happens after next week, and we'll probably change it. So cheers to that. If you have any wine left.
I still have a little bit left.
Cheers. All right. So I guess we should say goodbye, which is so sad.
Sad goodbyes. Until next week.
Yes.
Make sure you go read Alive and Beating. Go find it online because it is definitely worth reading. You will want to read it. I can't believe a larger publisher didn't snap it up, honestly.
I can't either. I'm absolutely flabbergasted by that. Like, that's how good it is.
This was a book that I think, like you said, it'll be in your top 10. I think it'll be on my top 10 as well.
Goodbye. See you next week. Read Sunrise on the Reaping.
Bye.
Bye. So thank you for listening to More Than a Book Club podcast. We are recorded and produced in McKinney, Texas.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.